for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today, Polona Aurea. This video is the first part of the 3 epic parts of these videos that I not just channeled, but I lived through as a creation experience during the very important chapter of our mission completion. So these will actually really be epic videos. They come in Divine Trinity or the Trilogy of Light. As you know, I'm used to creating things in Divine Trinities. This video content is probably one of the most important things I ever shared in my humble human life as the embodiment of Aurea. So today I will walk you through the first part of these videos with the title, The Descent of Elohim and the Birth of Elohim Children and the New Children. So I will start at the beginning of this probably will be a long saga, which I'll try to synthesize in a most understandable format as I can deliver to all of you. You have to know these videos are not just important as pieces of information, they are the entirety of what truly matters here when you truly wake up to the core creation design, the principle of illumined light, how it creates, why it is here at this time, why it is always very important as the pioneering essence in the beginning of each new creation cycle. So because we are talking about this, I will walk you through things since, from the beginning or the point of inception, which is the birth of Elohim, and through the principles of illumined light as creation angels. I will take you through the template. I will also take you through the experiences we've been having I actually asked Spirit, and I was actually called to call them the chosen one, or my chosen, or our chosen one. The words disciple or initiate somehow didn't resonate because they were chosen for this mission, and they are of the descended creation angel family, So I will walk through to this very important experience so you will know what took place behind the scenes throughout this time and these weeks through which we've been having these very important channeling sessions and integrative experiences on the human embodiment level. I will start at the very beginning point, which is, as you know, I've often talked about Aurea and Aureon as my divine father and mother aspects, but since I was birthed directly through them into this human life as the firstborn incarnation of this kind, I'll talk about this through the video content. That's where all my knowledge, all my love comes from. It comes from their heart, because I was born through their own immaculate illumined union principle and through their heroes Gamos union at the creation Elohim level. And they've created me on purpose on what I'll be talking about and sharing today. But I want to start at the very beginning because it all starts at this God creation level. So because these videos are so grand, I will need to use my notes so that I don't forget something, because they are quite extensive and it's hard for me to just, I'm not channeling directly. I'm walking you through the experience, which I've already integrated, but I will need to use my notes if you don't mind, so pardon me. So everything in creation life begins with the creation of God, and actually the clarion call of our beloved God, the Almighty Creator. And I actually, you're not a truly illumined being presence as in templating, which means on the planetary state of existence, because planets are templates for life, the carriers of life, and the prospects of life force prosperity, in which, how we can move and create life. And this means that everything in this illumined embodiment has to start at the level of you actually walking through this integrative journey, because it begins with the principles of illumined light. And I'm actually going to finish up in the 3rd video with these principles that my illumined family of light of the Elohim shared with me, and they've entrusted upon through me as their living embodiment. But it really does start with your full remembrance return to you as you're living your human incarnation. So you're not really a fully well-rounded illumined presence and a galactic presence on Earth or anywhere else for that matter until your entire journey and the clarion call is remembered, and it goes and extends itself all the way back to the original conception point or the point of creation. So for me, in my point of remembrance, I've walked through many, many gateways of light, and I've had several deaths and rebirths in this lifetime, also that Aurea can actually create her illumined offspring, her child, through me. And we will also, in the last part of the video, finish with what she's created through me, but I will start at the beginning of this inception point, so you're going to be able to see how the beginning and the end are actually the same thing. So it all starts with that creation, and for me, as I went far back, I've heard this clarion call going out from God, and I've often shared how Aurea actually is a very important, very advanced being, because she was chosen as a substitute or replacement for a very specific being we somehow now know as Lucifer. And she was once the almighty queen in all her glory and beautiful angelic presence before she's actually chosen to fall. And through her fall, many souls have been learning about the fallen dynamics and the nature of darkness, separation, and duality. And so because she was so important in those regards, my mission as the human embodiment of hers was very difficult, in some cases even very traumatic, but also very challenging from the perspective that this training I received as a human was very grandiose. And as a result of all of that, and me going through that and every single point of darkness and integrating all these aspects that were revealing themselves for me as I just jumped these points of light, and each one was their own breakthrough point for me as an individual as well as a human incarnation of the Elohim principle and the templating. It brought me further and further into the deepest regions of what truly creation is. So also in the last video part, we will finish up with the entire creation story, okay? So how this call resounded for me was like God asking and putting forth this inception point into Aurea, which was God calling forth and saying, go out and bring as many as you can back to me. You know, when we talk about going back to source, it's not like you no longer start existing as an individual. No, by this statement, it means bring as many as you can back to the remembrance of their true self, which is their own seed of illumined light. And that's what illumined beings do and how they serve, is they bring all creation back to its original templating as the illumined or immaculate seed of life, which means not just different realms and stations of life, but also specifically souls. Souls who are starting to remember and awaken that seed. So that journey began to be transferred onto the first one as the chosen one, as the disciple or as the initiate, who I'm now calling the chosen one or our chosen one. And I'll share how she experienced what I experienced those many, many years ago when I first received the knowledge and guidance that I am a creation angel, but not only that, I am actually a creation pillar holding a very firm and stable foundation for those who are also of the creation angel illumined descent, but they don't know yet. And these power souls are just about ready to awaken. And I was told years back that these individuals from all different walks of life would somehow find me during the course of many years to follow. And when I started to work with my portal here in what I call now the Illumined portal here in the Alps, which actually was Aurea's birth at creation point, or her portal, but me as Polona, as a physical human counterpart, as that aspect rooted or anchored on the earth, I had a very important mission calling to actually help activate and seal the deal with this portal. Okay, so this was the clarion call, and it all began with the Aurea's call to go out. You know, my mission statement on my webpage is that, you know, we bring the light of illumination into the worlds of creation. That's what illumined beings do. But not only that, in the next two following videos, you will see what the mission was unfolding behind the scenes, and the mission was really grand. And I myself did not understand it, because if I did, you know, I wouldn't actually have done and walked through the mission itself. So we've actually been seeing with my beloved chosen one, and she's been actually seeing, she's been telling me how she got a vision that I actually was doing this whole time all of this work blindfold, because she saw other creation angels laughing at how easily and fluently Aurea is actually doing this through me with blindfold. Like, it had to be this way, because, you know, we're the kind of beings that we need to not reveal our plans to certain groups of people and, dark individuals, because there's a lot at stake. And my beloved, at the highest aspect of what we call the beloved, as Aurea, he spoke to me those words when I actually began the transgression, uncovering, and unveiling journey. He said, look, my beloved, this is what's at stake. And we're going to talk about this in the second video. So for me to actually, this journey that it began, right? I had this deep desire always within me, not for people to recognize me and who I am, but to pass this seed on to the righteous one, the chosen one, that someone who would be the first one to awaken to the actual living principle that I came here to embody and then seed and then, exude, so that many others would follow in those footsteps. And she was the first one of the chosen one, so that's what we're calling her, chosen one. And all these videos that I'm about to share in the mission work and the calling actually came about into creation after weeks worth of working with that beautiful chosen one, or this counterpart individual. And as the work was complete, I actually received this guidance, and I'm going to start here before we move on to a little more sharing about the Elohim. And I want you to just feel into those words, because they will be the beginning or the initiation point before we actually climax at the very end with our third video of the Trinity. These were the words that were received after the mission completion and our sacred journeying together. The passageway has cleared. You're nearly there, so persevere. A realm that shifts, a dream comes true. The awaited miracle at last. The expansion of our dawn, super fast. So how I felt the statement was that it's almost like all the work that's been piling up and occurring behind the scenes as illumined beings working as this realm of teams and teams of light intelligences working together for one unanimous goal, which is to bring the seed of illumination to this plan template now here on earth, to those souls who called out for it, because it's just simply naturally divinely so. And the orchestration of the divine plan knows and reads this, as I've talked about before, through the pulses or impulses of life, through God's divine intelligence, which is life force of God. And this is how we operate. We read, decipher, and interpret, and then channel for these currents of life force through which God actually communicates through us as illumined beings into this creation realm, into beings who are ready to hear and listen. Okay, so I'm going to bring you now to this a bit of insight into creation angels through the creation story template. You've all probably heard about the words, first there was the word and then there was the flesh. But today I want to explain this, because in this video, I will take you through the experience of what it means to wake up to your true core principle and design of your creation angel self. So this was my first initiation experience when, not myself, who I was already awakened to this principle, and I know myself at the creation level, name and design. But you have to know there is no such awakening, a true awakening, before you wake up to your true creation name, the name that was first spoken at the beginning, at the dawn of your own individual sovereign creation. And we will go a little bit through that, and then we'll share the journey of how we actually conceived, how we brought forth this beautiful human being to their own conception point of illumination and waking up to their own light family as an Elohim child here on the planet. But largely so, right, speaking in this vast existence. Because we, as these highlight intelligence, we coexist simultaneously in many subdivisions and many realms of life. So first you have to know something about the birth and creation or division of Elohim. Elohim are the first born of God, right? When the God says, here's my word, now you speak it out and then bring forth that creation. And God says, go forth and create, then bring your creations back to me, right? So create them, fully illuminate them, and at the end of their cycle, create a spiral out of that cycle and bring them back to me, to their own God self nature. But Elohim actually have different stages of their division, because they actually divide themselves through a process known as sacred union. But the union at the Elohim level is like two beings going into a deeply merging cycle where their energies completely merge, and what from our perspective would be seen as a complete standstill point. And at this point, their energies are just merging, and in this submerging realm, there are aspects of themselves that come into life, that come into birth. And I've actually channeled this 2 years ago for my Cosmic Christ course, but here we will only go briefly through it because there's very more extensively described there, and one day perhaps we're going to talk about that, but not now. So the first was, as we say, was the word, when that word was spoken, which means this divine vision of God. And then what came after, actually I'll explain it from the creation angel level, came the breath of life, what we sometimes call the Holy Spirit, which is when you imbue your creation with the life of Holy Spirit. This is not a thought processing. What I'm sharing is from my own divine memory and record. And as I'm saying, you're not a fully illumined being until you trace your creation story all the way back to the original conception point. So after that breath of life, when there's force of life moving into that spoken creation, that word then became flesh. What does this mean? The breath of life literally means that through Holy Spirit, God's life force is given to that particular chosen creation, which began as individual envisioning that had its own name. Each creation angel has its own unique name. And that's why Spirit always says, everything, every encoding is in your first chosen name. This is not the kind of name that we see now in the New Age, everyone giving themselves second chosen names that they somehow hear, or, it's not the same, because it takes quite a while for you to actually wake up to that level of creation. So then that word became flesh, which literally means the uniquely chosen creation name became a manifest form, became its own divine sovereign being identity. So the word got its manifest form, became its own sovereign being, its own creation, in a form of a creation angel. And you have to know, each creation angel is a fully sovereign illumined light being, of that immaculate design of life, created or born to create. That's why here on earth, me as a creation angel, offspring, creation template, I cannot not create. I get very depleted if I don't create. I actually multiply my life force with the process of divine creativity. Sometimes I need to rest and recharge, but I'm actually gaining life force when I'm creating. I'm gaining momentum through the process of giving birth to something new that I'm, giving birth to. So at the beginning of each new creation cycle, the Elohim actually divide themselves again. This is what I explained in my Cosmic Christ course that never became physical manifestation yet. It waited for its right timing. But this is the birthing process and the result of the union of these holy, immaculate Elohim. In my example, my creation story all the way back, traced back to the lineage of my divine ancestry as Aurea eth Aureon, which means Aurea and Aureon in their sacred union. And through their union cycle, they created or gave birth to new life. And they created new aspects of themselves. One of them was me as their human living offspring. A part of it was a specific elemental realm or creation, because each Elohim gets their own realm, because they're not just a creation. They carry within them their seed. You carry an imprint of an entire realm. So creation angels know how to create realms. We're going to talk about that in the last video, so it will be quite a surprise. So when they give birth to this new life, they create new aspects of themselves, these holy Elohim. So in my example, this was my, or Polona's body avatar, right? My physical human body, which was their creation human counterpart, created in their image and likeness, in totality, fullness, and wholeness of their being. So these new illumined aspects are fully sovereign, born in the image of their creator God, in this case Aurea Aureon, two Elohim presences. And as Elohim divide themselves via the birthing result of their union, life in creation expands itself again. So division actually creates expansion in creation. It is moving out into the worlds of creation to bring the light of illumination and awaken the seed of illumined design. That's what we were doing in our humble mission work here. So these beings, such as myself, were known as the firstborn. That's how Spirit calls us. We are the children of the first primary or direct extensions of Elohim. We don't carry within us a further how to call this further creation of sovereign created souls of previous cycles of Elohim giving birth to life. So we are, or they are, direct living extensions without carrying any further division within themselves. When we have a splitting and divisions happening in order to eventually create multiplication of themselves, which results in individual souls created. Me, as a direct embodiment, I did not have, for example, human lifetimes previously, because like human lives for Polona, right, my counterpart, for this level of God consciousness whatsoever, right? It never existed before, which means a new aspect of life became incarnate or became physical for the first time, as my family of light told me already years ago. My mission statement literally read that, this is the call. I would be here as an angel agent, mission agent, to call out for the others, right? Who are these others? So the Elohim divisions from previous cycles that we're ready to remember who they are, sometimes known as volunteers or volunteer beings, other creation angel embodiments, and then also the first time ascending soul extensions of the one true family of light. These are actually then the second and the third born. That's how Spirit calls them to it's a very subtle approximation of the truth, but it's the best they can give at this point, right? So all of these together, we are aspects of one complete cycle or circle of creation, one breath of light that went out in the beginning. So at the same time, they told me for my embodiment, I carried everything in my seat to actually create or assist the completion of this cycle, but also instigate the beginning of the new cycle. So the mission we completed at this time was in direct relation or correlation to the completion of this previous creation cycle. But at the same time, this completion already in itself, that's how we are as Elohim beings, our completions birth already the new creation cycle, which is something we're going to talk about at the end. So for Polona, what does this mean? I had this dream, I told you, right, about years ago, how through this beautiful radiant pink light of the mother's heart and the mother's womb, this divine hand, almost like golden light went through this hand, reaching out for these beings who've fallen into this lesser realms or dense realms, and it was presented to me as falling into a sink or a sinkhole. And this hand pulled them out, and as it was this divine deity, the motherhood was observing, because Aurea, our mother and father spirits. We're not actually souls, we're spirits. And we were looking through these little beautiful rainbow beads, and with that was the accompanying voice saying, only these ones, only these select chosen ones, which literally translates into those that are ready to hear the calling and remember their own self and return home. And home is the state of beingness, not going back somewhere, right? This is what's sometimes very falsely interpreted in this realm. So now I want to talk about how, when after meeting this chosen one, who was the first one, I've passed on to all of my, it's like I've been gathering all these codes of illumination for myself, keeping them, holding them in my womb. And it was very interesting to actually add to this how in our mission protocols, in our exchange, and when we were doing these sessions together, in one of our experiences, we actually put each other into our wombs, which is our creating nesting space for new life. And so we literally merged for that time being. We became like this merged being, and then became a division known as the Vesica Pisces. So, literally, we came here to the embodiment principle, the matriarchal principle at the creation level, which is known as the feminine Christ principle, becomes the principle of embodiment. And it moves out into the form or creation templates, right? So after meeting, actually all these codes were imbued onto this beautiful chosen one, or, our illumined individual. And the awakening actually went super fast. It was the first time me witnessing someone else besides myself having an illumined awakening. And you can imagine this for myself being a super treat. It was a miracle. It was the most major blessing I've ever experienced in this lifetime. And when the person first started awakening, I've talked to you a little bit about how they've had a vision of Aurea, and she had a full acknowledgement of recognition of me. Never in my lifetime as of yet, and I am quite a few years old already. You would not believe, but I am. I've never experienced humbly that another or fellow human being would actually have full acknowledgement and respect for me, which happened, through this exchange. And through this journeying together, actually what took place was witnessing yourself as if another sees you. And through that external confirmation and holding space for each other, we were able to provide a safe space through which we could both enter into this last needed push for this mission cycle to actually be finally complete. But what took place first was that being started awakening, and we actually the being had a session with me a few months ago, and they told me that they've had different sessions before, like quantum, this and that. They've joined many groups, but never they actually started shifting after these sessions. It's because they themselves were more advanced at what was offered to them in those sessions. And a lot of creation angels, a lot of volunteers are that way. And they often wonder, why is this so? Why am I like this? And they go and join different groups and multiple lifelines, but there's something that was missing, lacking, because they haven't yet fully returned to themselves, and that they are that creative life force, right? And so when the person started awakening, they had several Aurea visions and witnessing. And in one of those visions, Aurea literally came to them as the super speeding light bulb and charging forth. And she just told them, like, you know what, we're going to do it all at once because she's ready. Let's do it. And Aurea was working super fast, right? And the individual says to me, you work super fast. I'm like, that's what I am. That's what Aurea is. She does not play games. She knows what she can do. She trusts herself, and that's what she does. And it was interesting to actually then observe and watch that playing out in our physical realm in these sessions, because everything that happened very instantaneously in spirit took charge as in a very quick integrative process. So through all these sessions, there was these multi-layers of what we needed to move through, and it was like we did a session and we did a journeying, and then I had to give her some training, and she needed that training, and then she could hold the next level and the next space. But from the perspective of triangulation, we needed her as the chosen one for that key, as the key force for us to complete this journey, because you have to know, Illumined light beings, we always work in teams, and she was the crucial element for us needing her to be at a specific level. There's something similar that occurred with my mother, who is also, her soul, as Florentina, is one of Aurea's children as well. She is, from the spirit perspective, my daughter, and it's very funny how in this human life, in a human way, I am her daughter. So it's a nice exchange between us that's very harmonious. And it's only been harmonious after my full creation angel awakening, not before, right? Before it was still egoic and based on patterns and, expectations that are very human. So what I wanted to say is that in the example of my mother was very similar, because first I need to fully get her to a specific condition in her life, to a state in which she was completely illuminated, she was enlightened, she became sainthood. She worked through many lifetimes towards her sainthood, and then she became fully awake. And we needed her because we knew we were going to go through a very deep, dark transgression cycle, so that she could be there for me. And it was training, because she is in a way a healer soul. It was training for her to hold space for me in that way. And very often she was afraid and she got scared, thinking that she cannot do enough. But it was actually a lot due to her work and what she activated as her gifts, that Aurea fully entrusted her with everything. Aurea trusted her every single step of the way, and Aurea has always trusted every single thing and every single one, because she's foresighted and she has the kind of vision that she just knows. She knows what she's doing, even when it appears to be from the human level perspective that it's not so. But at the end, it always shows that it is. So we actually then needed this individual, and the chosen one, we started our journey together. The first thing that actually took place was actually her Elohim awakening. And I remember it was a very specific day when she started hearing the words Elohim more and more. And I said, well, you're awakening that level. And she said, I can feel the family. And then I was with her, witnessing her awakening to the Elohim. And she said to me, Elohim are here, Elohim are here. And I felt them and I knew. And I said, just bask in this feeling. And she said to me, I never felt more loved. I never knew what this love was. And she starts weeping and sobbing, and I'm just there with her, supporting her and comforting her and saying, isn't this beautiful? Look at who you are. Let them show you who you are, right? That was the first step. And it was interesting because the words came through as she was going through her Elohim remembrance. I actually saw how they, Elohim are such high state of consciousness, this divine consciousness, that for you as a human to experience them, even though you come of that descent, they have to descend in a way, right? That's why I'm calling this the descent of Elohim. They have to literally, and they will not come no sooner, no later than when your time of crowning arrives. So she kept seeing the symbols of the dove, and even for her work, right, symbol of the dove, which is the Holy Spirit for me. Many people see the soul as the dove, but the soul is imbued with the life given to her through the holy breath of life, which is Holy Spirit. So I received this word, and they were saying the Elohim have descended, and they descended, and they were all gathered around her because she experienced her full, not just Illumined awakening, but her entire Elohim light family remembrance and homecoming. Like, she was literally coming home, and they were embracing her, and she was feeling and going through this very emotional experience. And it was very, like, for me, I've never experienced that for another, and even now I'm just having tears because it was just so freaking beautiful to witness. And we were there together all the time. We were together throughout all of these experiences, and it was just fascinatingly amazing. So they said that they always descend only when one of them is fully awakened into who they are, and that was what's taking place. So after a very short while, and very quickly, she was fast, right? She was working very fast. She started hearing the name Aurea. She said, Aurea came to me, and Aurea speaks to me now. I can't believe this. And funnily enough, Aurea is my own right counterpart, my most illumined beloved. And I could not even connect to him in such a long while because I still didn't complete the last chapter of my transgression, right? There was still something left in my third eye. And we're going to talk about this in the mission part of this walkthrough, of this journeying. And she was actually at that point communicating with Aurea directly, and it was witnessing for me experience, and it was strange because no one ever spoke and being in direct communication with Aurea except for me and my mother, who was also fully enlightened in that way. And he came to us, like, to me, he's just a part of me. He lives inside of me all the time, so I don't as distinctively experience him as others do. But her first experience with him was like he's a guide, and she felt his essence so strongly. She was like, I'm taken aback and I'm a bit in fear because I've never experienced such a strong masculine presence. And he even said to her, don't fear, it's just I'm this loving presence. And I told her that she will awaken to the loving aspect of him once she drops this fear in, like, comparison and being seen in that way. So that took place, and at the same time Aurea was giving me messages through her. And at that specific point in my life, because I haven't yet started this life force cultivation process, and I was deeply depleted and exhausted, he gave her these sentences and messages that she couldn't understand, but I did. So, for example, one of the things he was saying was, tell Polona that we need more activities in our home, right? Funny statement. What does it mean? And I was asking her, well, can you tell me what the home is? What is home? What is home? Light, family, illumined beings? No, home is the body, right? So Aurea calls who we are. In this template, we exist here in this body. He says, this is our home. This is our vessel. It's our vessel through which we can cultivate this state of divine illumined union. And I knew it. I didn't know it right away, but then I'm like, oh, of course, more activities of life force in this body. I know, I need to start that, right? And he started implying that he will need direct contact with me, but afterwards we finished this completion. So that was very beautiful. And at that point, what took place for me, I had a very difficult grieving experience happening in my life and releasing a lot. And what took place during their exchange, she was like witnessing me through his eyes. And when she told me that, I started crying, because it was, for me, again, this memory that I haven't had or held for such a long time, because, as you know, I was so cut off from this connection because of everything that took place. For me to finish that and restart that, our natural connection, and until that happened, as you know, I still had transgression in my body in these points of inception and hijacking. I couldn't communicate with him directly, so he had to always find a way to communicate with me indirectly, through the Illumined Arcturian angelics, right, the Illumined Aureus team, and all these aspects. And then he started directly communicating through her, and I could really feel it was him, because I know his terminology, I know how he speaks, I know how he is. He's very serious, but at the same time, he's just pure radiance of love. And he's like this liquid sunlight, that's how I feel him. And he was saying, he was showing her how he sees me. And he even told her through words, he says, Polona Aurea is my crowned jewel. Oh, I can't go past this one without crying. I'm sorry, my beloveds, just moves me deeply. And he said that all these tears, like, he showed her how he sees me when I'm crying as a human. He was seeing me crying diamonds, and these diamonds became like a river. And I've been doing most in my releasing as a human and cultivating, release and liberation through my tears, which were numerous. I don't know if any human cried more in this lifetime that I've cried, and it was all purity of that crying experience. So that was something that was really major. And when we started the session, this is the last part I want to actually talk about. We then knew we were somehow pushed into this spontaneous channeling sessions that I'll talk about in the next 2 videos. And in these sessions, we were actually each time brought forth a new experience, and I'll explain how this took place in the next video segment. But I need to explain this part, which is the first part. We needed to get her to the creation principle. We needed to guide her to actually embrace her own creation principle, which is your chosen name. And even before we actually met in this deeper, closer way, I told her, I said, all you need to do is receive your chosen creation name. She was like, I wonder what my name is. Is it something exotic? Is it something beautiful? And she was so adorable. And I was like, I feel it's something like, it's beautiful, and I didn't know, how it will happen. I thought she's going to receive it on her own. But what took place, actually, this was before we went into this Illumined channeling session. It happened before in one of the previous sessions that were very spontaneous. Something took place, and the individual shares with me, there's something about darkness, and they're trying to hijack me here, and what do I do? And suddenly, I just bursted out, and I was like, this and this you can do, because after all, you are, and I just blurted out, and I just spoke her name, and I was the first one that Aurea actually helped name her. She helped her. It's just received, because Aurea is the mother spirit to all these further illumined creation angels. And she's like, oh my goodness, we both got goosebumps, and it was so deeply emotional because her name is just so beautiful. And I was crying. I'm like, oh my God, it's really your name. It's your name. And you have to know something. Your name holds the greatest power. It is your direct connection with Source. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, creation angels, we need to always speak her name first. I as Aurea, I am Aurea, I am Aurea, I am Aurea. So we were doing sessions, let's say something happened or it was hijacked or, tried to come in between. I just said to her, say your creation name 3 times, and she was repeating it and she was back. It's so simple. The purity that comes in your name, because you don't understand everything, your entire journeys traveling through this realm of creation. It's all encoded in your name. Your name carries within it the entire seed that, begins to expand and eventually returns to Source as a fully illumined crystalline child. This divine gateway for life-giving and the birthing of life. The immaculate light being. And it is just so amazing. I've never had an experience just blurting out the name. When my mother received her name, it was also a mutual experience. But this was like random, automatic. I just pulled it out. It just came out of my mouth. I was like in this vehement way. I'm like, after all, you are this, and just burst it out. She's like, what is this? What's happening to me? And since that moment of her receiving her name, bug landed on me. When she first received her name, it's like everything started changing from that point forward. It's like she started feeling herself. She started seeing brighter, right? So in this session that we were doing, it was our mission session composing of several chapters. We did this, I think it was 2 or 3 days. We did the mission completion journey together. Everything else was a protocol for training, and holding each other in the womb. She also experienced one time, she knew it was so deep. She's like, I need to go for a nap because I have a feeling I'm going to receive something. She's like, she's so knowing. And then she wakes up. She's like, oh my God, we had a lucid dream. I traveled with you. I could witness you, who you are, how you are. I walked with you as your chosen one. And it was just amazing. And she had a very profound, very vivid dream, and she could just be herself with me and even tell me all her fears of not feeling seen and not recognized. It was just so beautiful when she shared it with me. I'm just witnessing and taking it on. But I've never experienced something more beautiful than when we actually got to the point of getting her to her creation name. And then we just traveled through Aurea's portal. She entered her own portal and she was shown how to spin. She was spinning, and when she was spinning, I was showing her through a mirror how to see herself, and she was observing herself in her full glory, her angel wings, her true self, the colors, how she is. She saw this childlike spark of hers, like how she is this childlike self. And the next level was actually meeting with the illumined angelic's counterpart, like Aurea, and she met her beloved and received his name. And then we exchanged at that level, and we created a trinity. We triangulated together, and it was just such a fascinating journey. And I know I can't uncover all the details because some of them, as you know, are deeply personal, but I'm just showing this an example of this illumined Elohim awakening and what we've co-created together. And I've never experienced something more beautiful. All these parts were beautiful. So this is something that I wanted to talk about and share in the first video. I will now move on to the second part, which is the mission protocol and the mission completion, what this mission was. I will use my notes to share every single one of those journeys. So when you take time to process some of what was shared here today, I will also, at the end, share Illumined principles, but I think I will leave that for the last part. So I just want you to take some time to really sit with this, cultivate this knowing within yourself. And something else I want to share is that I know this whole journey will mark a very specific passageway for me as a human Elohim embodiment as well, and doing other things. And one of my deepest desire is to help other people. Like, this was just our chosen one, was the first of the few of the many. That's how they're calling it. Because even when she went into this mission transmission, Aurea told her in direct channeling communication, he said to her, there's more of you here than you know. But as you know, there's not many here who actually fully awoke to who they are. And he actually told her that she will have sessions with me. We're going to have sessions with each other, that she has to help me. And it was very interesting because he said something to her like, look at this sacrifice. He said, this is the hardship. This is, look at how it is, the sacrifice of serving your queen, And he says, look, this is how, he was just showing her, and she could witness. She was the first human, like I said, human angel who actually acknowledged me at every single level and witnessed me as for the entirety of what I am. But parts that we experienced together were very personal, right? So as a continuation of this personal journey, it's not my goal, of course, to, give all the details out, but my desire, my humble desire as still serving human here on the planet is to help other people into their awakening. So I would, more than these general videos, I would like to do more sessions and help one-on-one these individuals who feel a call, who will feel their own clarion call to wake up and remember more. So you can find all the detailed information on my services page on Serapina Light. And you might wonder again, because she also received the name, of the Seraphim. And what is the Seraphim order? So the Elohim creation angels or creation beings, they then create different divisions of themselves, like different groups of angelics. And Seraphim is just one of these orders or orchestrations, right? And you also have to know we're known as the singing ones. I used to sing so many songs of the beloved, of life-giving. And all these songs carry the seed of knowing and remembrance, right? We're going to talk about this more too. But for now, this is where I want to end this first part. I hope it was somehow as joyful for you as it was for the both of us, and that it made you have more appreciation for what truly matters, which is your true illumined awakening, right? When you get to that point, yes, your reality will shift, because my beautiful chosen one, she said to me, I feel like completely rebirthed. I've never felt like this, and this is so fast. She was like, I can't believe, how can this happen so fast? How do I just know these things? How come? I didn't train for them. I'm like, it's all in you already. She just needed that right nudge. And we just gave her what she needed, that last push, And it was so beautiful because she also was, and through our sessions, she said to me, oh my goodness, I was witnessing, herself through the beloved counterpart. And she was saying, whoa, this is my last life on earth. I get to ascend. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that. It was like, but yes, of course, It's really humbling for me to hold space in that way. And it was, the reason why we were able and capable of going so deep with each other, because there was no lack of anything such as trust within ourselves. We had complete trust to each other and for each other. I trusted her that she will do everything right. She trusted my guidance. She was the only one who felt the genuine nature of me as a guide. She said, no one guides like you do. She's like, you are just immaculate. And it was this most beautiful co-creation that I will now share in the next two segments. The result, the product, the labor of my love, and the last step of the journey of love we actually created together, or co-created together. But here at this part, what I want to do now, that's how I'm guided. Before we move on, I want to finish with the poem that Spirit actually gifted this beautiful chosen one. I was somehow deeply impulsed to create a poem, or to write a poem through Spirit for her. Spirit poem for this beautiful being, this Elohim being, and it's an honor. It's in spirit honor of her, and I'll read it to all of you as well. My beloved angel, the blessed of the chosen ones, to you I now come and before thee bow. I choose you as my pure reflection through which we heal all of rejection. Thou which wants to return home through us, and what we co-create together in our mutual affection. Home, family, and adoration, the chosen path found through us. United, we're never apart. We return in one instant to the heart of the beloved, and that which created us as pure and immaculate. Free to be ourselves, free to be our home on earth and everywhere we go, and choose to travel as a new adventure. Hold my hands as I carry your essence within mine. I love you dearly, sweet child divine. The nectar of life, a magical stardust, that which creation angels are made of. I love you. In honor, Polona, Aurea Dawn. I'll be seeing you, my sweet beloveds, in the second part of the video. Get your sleeves rolling and let's go, as always, with so much love, wisdom, and power, and I'll see you. Wink, wink.